Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of The Source. We got a big game here. Ohio, San Diego State. I know that probably doesn't sound like a big game, but both these teams have high hopes of taking their conference championships this year. Ohio probably would have had it if Curtis Rourke doesn't get hurt last year. We'll get into that in a second. This line opened up San Diego State laying 3.5 points at home, but it's dropped to 2.5. Total opens up at 50.5.
Welcome to The Source. The Source. Hey, get the Source.
Action came in heavy on Ohio in this one. The odds makers respond to it. Line drops a full point from 3.5 down to 2.5, which is a significant movement. It's been sitting at 2.5 all week. Majority of the action still on Ohio. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. And according to the model, we're looking at 26-22 Ohio wins. So that'd be a lean on the Bobcats. So let's start with returning production. And according to ESPN's ratings, both these teams got absolutely gutted. 52% of estimated returning production for Ohio, 114th in the FBS. San Diego State just 56% returning. That's 97. But to be honest, I'm kind of skeptical about some of these numbers here, specifically the Ohio defensive returning production, just 26%. They're bringing back their 2 leading tacklers and 2 of their 3 leading pass rushers. They did take some losses in the secondary, but most of their defensive front is still there. And that senior they brought in, Walter Reynolds, he's a transfer from Holy Cross, the same Holy Cross team that went 12-0 last year and lost to South Dakota State in the FCS playoffs. So they expect him to be an upgrade at safety. In case you don't watch a lot of MAC football, Ohio Bobcats had a crazy turnaround last year. Head coach Albin got off to a really rocky start in 2021 after getting the promotion, starting 3-9. But then last year they finished 10-4 and they started off 2-3, just went on a rampage. Let's talk about the Ohio offense here because it's loaded with 8 returning starters, including the MAC Offensive Player of the Year quarterback Curtis Rourke. They also had the MAC Freshman of the Year, their running back Bangura. They also had a first-team all-conference receiver. He's back as well. So they did lose some pieces on the offensive line, but the 3 main pieces of that offense, quarterback, running back, receiver, they're still there. I don't see any reason this Ohio team isn't right in the mix, challenging for the MAC Conference Championship again. I mean, you could probably make the argument, like I said, that they win the MAC Championship game if Curtis Rourke doesn't get hurt. They probably would have beat Toledo. I mean, Toledo fans would probably say otherwise, but whatever. Look at Ohio's passing numbers from last season: 30th in passer rating and 33rd in effective pass. Those are insanely good numbers for a group of 5 team. But when we look at the other side, the Aztecs pass defense was also excellent for a group of 5 team. I mean, we're talking about a team that was top 40, top 45 in most statistical categories in pass defense, and for a group of 5, that's awesome. This would be a really tough challenge for Curtis Rourke and the Ohio offense. The reason I say it would is because San Diego State's defense got completely gutted, specifically on the front. The secondary is still mostly there. San Diego State runs a weird defense. They run like, it's kind of a 3-3-5 nickel. They have 1 safety in the middle over top that's called the Aztec, and then they have 4 other D-backs. So picture a 3-3-5 defense. They lost all 6 members of their defensive front. The 3 starting defensive linemen and the 3 starting linebackers, all gone. So yeah, San Diego State had a badass defense last year, and the secondary is good as hell. Probably going to be good as hell again this year. One of the best group of 5 defenses in the country, and they're projected to be one of the best group of 5 defenses in the country again this year. But the new faces on the defensive front is going to be a problem, especially early in the season. Now let's talk San Diego State's offense, and this is a tough one to get a read on, man. I mean, for the first 5 games last year, they had Braxton Burmeister at quarterback. You probably remember him from Virginia Tech back in 2021. That's what I remember him from. They were awful. They were absolutely awful to start the year. Look at their passing leaders per game in the first 5 games of their schedule here. He threw for 108 yards against Idaho State, an FCS school. That was his best day, throwing the football out of those 5 games. But then they replaced their OC. They fired Hecklinski, brought in Ryan Lynn. Well, not brought in. They promoted him from, he was already the quarterback's coach, I believe. And then they bring in Jalen Maiden to play quarterback, who was actually seeing snaps at safety for them. They bring him in to play quarterback, and all of a sudden they start throwing the ball. Look at the statistical differences here. I mean, look at the offense from the first 4 games in comparison to the last 8. I mean, San Diego State's offense was by no means great, but it was definitely a serious improvement from the first chunk of the season. But here's the thing, San Diego State's offense wasn't the only unit in this game that saw a huge positive turnaround last year. Look at the Ohio Bobcat defense in the second half of the season, allowing just 326 yards per game and 19 points per game in the last 8, 17th and 10th in the country, including the Power 5 schools. This Ohio defense showed up in a huge way out of nowhere and was a big part of why they went to the MAC championship game. Got some key trends here before we get to the bets, pretty much negative for both sides. Ohio 1-2 against the spread as a road dog last year, 2-7 against the spread against non-conference opponents. That's the last 2 seasons combined. San Diego State, this is a nice one, 8-20 against the spread as home favorite since 2017. So this has not been a favorable spot for San Diego State. That's compared to 10-6-1 against the spread as road favorites. So home favorites is not the spot you want to bet San Diego State. They're also 1-4 against the spread against non-conference teams last year. So as far as betting the game, I'm taking the points with Ohio. I know it's definitely the square side here. I would imagine most of the public's going to be on Ohio, but there's a reason for that. I think they should be laying a point or two, if I'm being completely honest. I'm also going to take the under at 49. There's a lot of action coming in on the over in this one. Total opened up at 50.5, dropped, so some reverse line movement there. So I'm taking Ohio plus 2.5 and the under at 49. If you're interested in the top bets for the week, I post my top bets, parlay of the day, the private chat, the Discord. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, head over to KyleKirms.com. If you want to hear our final decisions, make sure you tune into the live show. I'll have some guests on. This week we're going Saturday at 11 a.m. Hope to see you in the comments there. College football week 0. Let's have ourselves a good week. Remember to bet responsibly. It's a long season. And hit me up on Twitter if you need anything.